Attention GovGuam employees and retirees. Open enrollment is extended to October 10th. There's still time to choose Take Care and keep money in your pocket. Lower copays at preferred in-network providers. A payroll deduction as low as $2.04 bi-weekly. To avoid enrollment and payroll processing delays, enroll as soon as possible. Learn more at takecareasia.com/GovGuam 2023 or call 671-647-3526. Take Care, our island, your health plan.
Buenas Marianas, and welcome to our studios here on the 7th floor of the DNA building in Hagåtña, Guam. I'm Troy Torres.
I'm Johnny Rosario.
And we are so proud and honored to bring you our friends from the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands in studio with us. Right next to us, Congresswoman Tina Sablan and Leila Fleming Staffler. Ladies, welcome to our studios.
Half a day, and good morning, Troy and Johnny, and everybody watching today. We're so excited to be here.
Well,
Sorry.
Oh,
just want to say thank you.
yes, thank you. And
I'm here.
we have a gift for you.
Yes, this is like handing over the flag. Is this like?
Yeah.
Oh.
The Olympic torch.
She's very serious.
Yes.
Yeah. So that when you become, if the people of the Commonwealth elect you to be the next
Wow.
governor and lieutenant governor, you have the mandatory snacks in your offices.
I don't even know what to say. There will be no reimbursements for this.
Can I get the
Thank you.
extra crispy? Or extra spicy?
76 Circle K didn't have the spicy one. They just had the extra crunchy one, which, if I'm not mistaken, was on the receipt. It was on the Walmart receipt. It was the extra crunchy.
Here, you guys. Oh.
You got her.
Turn that in. Turn that in.
You can.
Okay, put it all together.
So while
Yes,
you're walking, the next time you're walking by Governor Ralph Torres, just drop the receipt, and you might
He'll
see
pick
it
it up.
in the next reimbursement memo
he'll
to
pick it
David
up.
Attilik Jr.
Guys, that is
We got some
I feel
some
like
water
we should
for you.
prominently display this right there.
Now we do have a
Thank you.
serious interview ahead to
Yes,
ask.
we do.
We're going to ask some questions that we, judging from the comments that we have from our viewers and readers from the Commonwealth, are important issues to them. And so when we come back from this, it's not a short commercial break. When we come back from this commercial break, we'll start on with the interview.
Attention GovGuam employees and retirees. Open enrollment is extended to October 10th. There's still time to choose Take Care and keep money in your pocket. Lower copays at preferred in-network providers. A payroll deduction as low as $2.04 bi-weekly. To avoid enrollment and payroll processing delays, enroll as soon as possible. Learn more at takecareasia.com/GovGuam 2023 or call 671-647-3526. Take Care, our island, your health plan.
We have to all work together because we do need to deter crime. We do need to decrease crime.
There's a lot of news coming out, rape cases, children. It's so hard to believe.
I'm Felix Camacho, and I approve this message.
Tom Fisher was a Peace Corps volunteer and an educator in the jungles of Central Africa. He went from educating children in impoverished nations to serving our nation in the United States Navy. Tom's legal expertise took him from the military courtroom as a judge advocate general to the courts of Guam, where he has spent 3 decades representing our Manumco and our less fortunate. Tom Fisher knows the law. He'll be a great lawmaker. Let's vote Attorney Thomas Fisher for Senator.
I'm Tom Fisher, and I approve this message.
Half a day, dear people of Guam. My name is Pete Santos, and I approve this message. I am the only candidate that's running for Attorney General that has the proven track record, the required skills, and the leadership ability to make Guam safe again. Please write me in for Attorney General of Guam this election. Thank you, si Diyos maasi, maraming salamat po, and kiraso.
Right now, we are seeing a rise in energy prices. We feel it at the pump, at the store, or each time we get our CUC bill. This is causing everyone to make difficult choices. Businesses are having to increase prices or reduce hours. Families are having to choose between keeping the aircon on or putting food on the table. Lieutenant Governor Arnold and Mayor Dave's commitment to our Commonwealth is demonstrated through their 30-plus years of public service. Their experiences have allowed them the opportunity to personally interact with our community during their most difficult moments, and for that, they have a better understanding of the needs of our people. The CNMI needs leaders that will promote policies that create jobs, grow paychecks, and improve the economic security of the CNMI businesses and families. We hear you, Marianas. It's time to get this government back in order. This election, please vote Arnold and Dave.
Half a day. I'm Elaine Tamaniel Johnson, and I'm voting for Joe S. Sonagasti. Woo-hoo!
Half a day. Guahu si Joe Mesngun. Kugagagaham du Toru para un fanbota si Joe S. Sonagasti para senador.
Half a day. I'm Crystal Augustine. I'm from Malesu, and I'm voting for Joe.
Ako si Winston Ilisito. Iboto natin si Joe San Agustin for Senator. Mabuhay!
I'm Senator Joe Shimizu San Augustine, and I approve this message.
Welcome back. We are here with Tina and Leila, and they are running for governor and lieutenant governor in the CNMI. Oh.
No, I love it.
Thank you. Yes, we are.
So we want to know, how's the campaign? Where have you guys been? Where did it start? And where are you ending?
Campaign has been going really well, I have to say. I think we're both feeling really good about it, getting a lot of just positive energy everywhere we go, really. We just came back from a series of visits in the States, so we started in Salem. Salem, Oregon, and then we had a stop in Beaverton, so Portland area, and then I went on to DC. We had a campaign event there, and then just got back, and so here we are in Guam. We're having an event tonight at Good Time Lounge in Tamuning. So everybody's invited. Come on down. You can get tickets at the door, and we're just looking forward to meeting with everybody and having a good crowd and a good time tonight. And then this weekend we're going to Rota, so we have a couple more trips planned for Rota and Tinian between now and Election Day. So,
nice.
How's the campaign team? You guys have your media team, your canvassing entourage, and all that. And how is it going door to door? What kind of responses are you guys getting?
I would definitely say we have a very positive response everywhere we go, whatever village we end up in. When we go house to house, sometimes you kind of aren't sure because there's posters of every different candidate in a person's yard, but we don't let that hold us back. We still go in and try to introduce ourselves, make sure that people know that we are out there and we want to make sure we introduce ourselves to the community. And every time we're just welcomed with open arms and told we're so grateful that you're running. We can't wait till November. We're ready. So I'm grateful for all the warmth that we get.
I've been really excited by the new voters, like the first-time voters who are telling us this will be their first election, that they're actually going to be casting their vote. A bunch of people have told us that they registered for the first time ever because they wanted to be able to vote for us.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Nice.
And so they're not just young people.
Yeah, it's also, older voters that have never voted in the CNMI because they never thought that they had a reason to.
That's a sign.
That is.
Yeah.
Well, good for
and
you
we
guys.
have like a record turnout of registered voters this election, highest number ever, over 19,000.
And as I understand it, voter turnout during a gubernatorial year is somewhere around 85%.
It has historically been pretty high. Like I think one year it was like 66%, and people were like, "Oh, it's really low." I mean, compared to the states, right?
Yeah,
like compared to the rest of the country, that's still pretty high. But gubernatorial elections are, historically anyway. We expect a good turnout this year too. Like even with the early voting for the Northern Islands voters, it's already at 65%, and we still have 33 days to go.
I noticed during the debate there seemed to be a camaraderie between you and Lieutenant Governor Arnold Palacios. What's going on there? You guys friends?
Yeah.
I don't even notice your supporters attacking each other.
Right. Well, we are friends. Okay. I've known Arnold for a long time, and there's a lot of mutual respect between us. He was my speaker when I first served in the legislature, and and we've always had a good rapport and a good relationship. We don't see eye to eye on policies, and there are differences I think that we could certainly discuss more on this campaign trail, but we do have a common interest, right, in seeing a change in the administration, and that is one thing that we mutually agree on, right, and our supporters on both sides agree on that too.
So the change theme, aside from changing the administration, what needs to change in the Commonwealth?
Where do we start? Well, we talk a lot about changing the culture of government, right? And wanting to set the tone for good governance at the top, because the leadership at the top is really like, people feel the impacts of that throughout the government, and the quality of public services and the morale that you see when you walk into any government office, right? That tone really gets set at the top, and so we want to instill a culture of true public service in our government, starting with the people that we'd appoint. So we talk about wanting to open up the application process and encouraging people, even like a lot of locals have left the islands, right, and have incredible skills and experience that and would want to have an opportunity to come and serve, and we want to open up that process and appoint people to lead our departments and agencies who are qualified and ethical and have a vision for where these departments and the public services that we provide, where we want to go, so that people are getting the services they need at the level and the quality that they deserve.
That's the first 100 days?
Yeah, well, within the first 100 days, yes, we want to make sure that we have appointed qualified, ethical people to fill these positions. Sure, that would be, step one. And I think the next priority, one of our highest priorities, is to get an assessment of the fiscal condition of the government. So we talk a lot about all the money that's come into the CNMI. When you take it all together, over $2 billion in federal aid for disaster recovery and for pandemic response, and then on top of that, there have been millions in appropriations that we've made for our school system, for healthcare, and there have just been these delays, like inexcusable, unacceptable delays in transfers to these critical institutions and these projects that are meant to, and programs that are meant to assist people, right, in our economic recovery. And so we want to get a true picture of the fiscal condition of the government and make that report available to people within the first 100 days.
When we first met, it was over the phone. And you were the very first person from the CNMI who I had met through Kandit, through this profession. And it was back in November of 2019. COVID-19 was just incubating somewhere in the world. We had no idea at the time that there was going to be a pandemic and that there was going to be this $2 billion that would come into the CNMI government. But when we had our conversation, the first conversation we had was actually not live. But then we went live right away, I think a few minutes later, and we got you back on the phone because you agreed to an interview. One of the things that we did talk about initially was about the the allegations of corruption against Governor Ralph Torres, the use of resources, the raid, yes, and how the minority had been harping on these issues, and nobody was hearing anything until the raids happened, and then it sort of opened everyone's eyes. I want to play for our audience that interview that we had that day. I think it was November 25, 2019, if I'm not mistaken. Did we have that ready and queued, Zach? Here's at least an excerpt of that interview. Speak with CNMI Congresswoman Tina Sablan a few minutes ago, and Congresswoman Sablan has agreed to go live with us on her thoughts, speaking for herself regarding this entire process and what she knows so far about any such meeting. And so we're going to give her a call right now.
Hello, this is Tina.
Hi, buenas, Congresswoman. This is Troy.
Hi, Troy. How are you?
I'm great, thank you, and thank you so much for taking our call with our viewers here on Kandit News.
Of course, no problem.
Congresswoman, could you? I know we discussed this when we were on the phone earlier. Could you tell us what you know so far regarding the rumored meeting or the request for a meeting by Governor Ralph Torres with the majority party in the House and the Senate of the CNMI legislature?
I really, as I mentioned to you prior, I really don't know very much about it. I can tell you that the members of the minority have not been invited to any such meeting, and that we have reached out to our colleagues on the majority side, but have yet to confirm that there is in fact a meeting happening. It's been pretty quiet up here at the legislature, so that's really all I can say at this point.
Thank you, Congresswoman. What is the political environment like right now with regard to all of these allegations of public corruption by Governor Torres and his family?
Well, as you can probably imagine, there's a real sense of turmoil and uncertainty, and and some relief, I would say, from some quarters among concerned citizens who have been asking questions about the government and the relationship that some officials have had or appear to have had with the casino and casino executives. So it's really very early on in the process. I think my sense is that quite a few people are really just waiting at this point to see how things unfold and what additional information will come to light if there will be an indictment, and what the charges ultimately will look like if we come to that. It is really a bit early at this point to say. I can also tell you that I, as well as my colleagues up in the legislature, are being pressured on all sides to issue a statement about impeachment or opening up an inquiry and what we should do going forward on the legislative side, which would be, of course, a separate process from any criminal proceeding.
Is impeachment under consideration in the House of Representatives?
At this point, there hasn't been any action. I have gone on the record to say that I do believe that we have enough cause to open up our own inquiry on the House side,
Okay.
but nobody else has gone on the record yet to say that. On the minority side, we are planning to have a meeting very soon. A number of us were off island this last week, and when everybody is back on island, hopefully this week, we do agree that this is important, and we just need to all get together in the same room to discuss our position as a minority about how we move forward.
You mentioned a bit earlier about a sense of relief in some quarters in the CNMI. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that sense of relief may be?
Well, sure. It's not a secret, and it's certainly all over social media. People have been uneasy, and there has been lots of speculation, but then also just just information about the very close relationship between certain local politicians and the casinos since even before the Nighttime Casino Act was enacted. And so, it's been a very common refrain that I've heard, like, where are the feds? What's going on? Is there an investigation? Does the rule of law even mean anything in the CNMI? And, the feds have been very quiet about any sort of investigation that's been ongoing, but, I think it would be naive for anybody to think that the raids don't point to, very significant probable cause, and they wouldn't do something like this at this level of government without having ample probable cause. I think we can all reasonably assume that.
So, Congresswoman, you mentioned that you have gone on the record publicly to state that there is. Can I just say that 3 years ago? Well, let me just start with all three of you remain pretty. 3 years ago, I was pretty too.
You're still pretty.
You are prettier.
Oh, yeah. That's why you're running for governor. That was a political statement right there. My skin was better, and I was smoking on the set. Can you believe that? How unprofessional
you look like
of me.
The boss.
I quit smoking a month and 6 days after that, December 31,
I remember.
2019.
Yeah.
Now and then COVID hit. Yeah. COVID started to become a thing around Christmas.
Yep.
And then COVID hits, and who would have known? It's been almost 3 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Who would have known? That was November 25, 2019. Who would have known everything that has happened, all the money that would come through the CNMI? And so, there's a relevant question here, and you talked about you're going to do an assessment of the finances. Boy, what happens when you find out that money has been squandered in illegal ways, that there were illegal contracts, there was bid rigging? These are things that you can discover if you are elected governor and lieutenant governor. Mm-hmm. Aside from the important matter of what are you going to do with the money that remains, well, what are you going to do if you find out that hundreds of millions of dollars were squandered on illegal contracts?
Well,
which is a real possibility, wouldn't you agree?
Let's just start with saying that we know that money has been squandered. There have already been contracts that have been unearthed from the very beginning of this pandemic response, right? With CARES Act contracts that we obtained through the legislature and questioned, and then going all the way through, contracts that we have surfaced, that Kandit has also reported on, with American Rescue Plan monies, right? There has been a lot of money coming through, and we are still operating, by the way, under a state of emergency, and a lot of the procurement happening now with this government is really like sole sourced emergency contracting, right? And there, I have no doubt that we will find irregularities. I do, think that the Attorney General's office is, scrutinizing some of these contracts a little more. But we're also hearing that, contracts are getting kicked back and rejected, and still money's getting paid out, right? So I do think that we need to really get to the bottom of all of that, figure out how much is left, and then put a stop to the improprieties that we know are happening. There's no doubt in my mind that has happened and that continues to happen.
How are you going to stop this sort of culture of corruption from happening in the Commonwealth government if you're elected?
Well, the rule of law has to mean something. We have procurement laws, we have regulations, we have law enforcement agencies, right? We need people to be committed to enforcing the law, and it starts with, the governor and lieutenant governor, who would be, the chief executives responsible for upholding the law, and we take that very seriously. And appointing people to, run our law enforcement agencies, and also to be, keepers of the purse and on the finance side. There's so much money that's being, it just seems like a shell game, right? And some of the delays that I talked about in transfers to like the public school system or the Northern Marianas College or the hospital, money is being shifted from one account to the next, and it really doesn't seem like there is a whole lot of order or scrutiny or adherence to the regulations, right? And having people in these positions of responsibility who will carry out their jobs and be faithful to the law and the regulations, I think, is the first place we'd start.
And I'd just like to go on, that brings you back to the culture. And part of what we really aim to change is the culture of government and how it operates from the top down. And it does start at the top. And when you have, leadership that really does make sure that those kinds of things, those rules, those regulations, those SOPs are followed, then you will see that type of practice be gone.
Do you feel that the people of the Commonwealth are ready for that kind of change?
Yes.
Yes.
What are you hearing from your constituents?
There's a cost to corruption, and it affects people from all walks of life. The services that are not provided because of those lapses in ethics and judgment are what keeps our people from getting what they deserve with respect to the services that we're supposed to provide as a government. And so people are ready because they want to be served the way they deserve and where they are supposed to be.
One of the areas where fiscal control started to rear its ugly head was in the Medicaid match. And there was a scare that happened earlier this year, and I believe it was your committee, the Health and Welfare Committee, that began to prod because you saw a letter, if I'm not mistaken, from USHHS saying, where's the money? Where's the local match? And so Medicaid for and for those of you who are not Medicaid subscribers and you're not aware, Medicaid is for basically the poor and the working poor. Mm-hmm. And there are so many poor and working poor in the Commonwealth who rely on Medicaid for access to healthcare. In the debate, you talked about greater access to healthcare. So let's talk to us about both Medicaid and your plan for greater access to medical care.
Yeah, Medicaid in the Marianas, actually, especially since the pandemic, under the public health emergency, the vast majority of our population now is on Medicaid through presumptive eligibility, right? And so we're looking at tens of thousands of people losing this access, which has been so life-saving these last couple of years, losing this access when the public health emergency ends and when presumptive eligibility ends for them. And one of the measures that we have included in our healthcare plans for the CNMI is to expand access to health insurance to catch these people when that cliff happens, right? Like, we want to open up the government insurance plan, for example, let employers who right now can't, even the smaller employers especially, they want to provide, this is what we hear from them, they want to provide health insurance for their employees, but it's just so cost prohibitive in the Marianas. But if there was some kind of public option, I guess, they could buy into the government's insurance plan. If it was a competitively bid plan that was a contract between the government and a provider, and then other businesses, other employers could buy into that, they would. And I would really like to open that up. That would be one way. Another thing that we did in the last couple of years, we amended the Medicaid legislation, or we established the legislation to create the Commonwealth Medicaid Agency, and we authorized the future possibility of a buy-in program. So similar to what I was just talking about with the government's insurance plan, other employers could buy into Medicaid, or other stakeholders, like people could just buy into the Medicaid program even if they wouldn't otherwise be eligible, and it would be another affordable option. And then you've been exploring another route for...
So one of the things I've been working on in collaboration with NMC, NM Tech, and the PSS system, but in particular NM Tech is trying to establish a contractor's license like it exists here in Guam. And in conjunction with that, the Guam Contractors Association has a buy-in option for small businesses. And I know NM Tech right now is working really hard with them to try and bring that to the Marianas sooner, so that we're opening our own CNMI contractor's license underneath, like as a subsidiary of the Guam Contractors License. Guam Contractors Association. And that would be a third way that we could probably expand access. And
An insurance pool.
Insurance pool, yes. And what's so important about that is what I know to be true is before the presumptive eligibility came into effect, so many of our people were just ignoring their preventative health measures, not taking their annual exams, and that's when their NCDs start to really go out of control because they're not really checking themselves on an annual basis, and then our people just get sicker. But I know for sure that since this presumptive eligibility came into play, many more of our people have been getting help sooner, so they don't go into like full-blown diabetes shock and such because they have access. And so that's one of the big reasons why we need to expand these options, because we have a lot of people who have non-communicable diseases, and we need to make sure we take care of them.
Yeah, and we were also seeing people just going to the emergency room, right? So when it's like catastrophic and it's more expensive to treat, right? Like they were deferring their care until it was almost too late, right? And also more expensive. And if they didn't have insurance, then it's really like all of us, right? The taxpayers who would have to foot the cost. But CHC, our Commonwealth Healthcare Corporation, they can't turn anybody away, right? They are one public hospital, and so they were racking up millions in just uncompensated charitable care, basically. And I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, we all pay for that. And the difference that we're seeing now that presumptive eligibility has granted this access that we've never seen before to healthcare, is that like CHCC actually has been. They've been collecting revenues. Like now, like there are more people who have access to an insurance provider that will pay for their care, and that has made a huge difference too. Like in the investments that CHC has been able to make in improving services on island, so that they're not having to go off island for care.
I want to bring this conversation to access to care for veterans, because we had an interview last night with Stanley Iacopo and with Priscilla Iacopo, an extraordinary woman, and an extraordinary couple actually. But first we need to take a break. But before that, I want to let our audience know that if you hear some snickering in the background, that is the one and only Nola Hicks, who got all excited when Tina was talking about corruption. And I didn't see her, but I heard her. And I heard her fist going through the air. And right next to her, well, let me just let me give her a proper introduction. I want to know, if you're elected governor and lieutenant governor of the CNMI, you're going to leave the legislature. Well, you're going to leave the legislature anyway, right?
Right.
And I can just imagine how much safer you feel when Selena Roberto Babalta is right next to you and she is just charging forward like a lion against every bad thing that could possibly... What's your relationship like with Selena?
Oh, we love Selena.
And she is in our studios.
She is. I keep eyeballing her to come and join us on the couch. So maybe she should just come here now. Got plenty of room.
Yay! All right.
Yes. Yay! All right.
So running for the Senate.
Grand entrance.
Good thing you're under the table. Here you go.
Oh. She is a lady and not to be messed with. That's for sure.
Thank you for having us, Tor and Johnny, and Eric, and Jody, and Zach, and everybody else.
Thank you for finally joining us on the couch.
I was watching them from.
So, Selena, if you're elected to the Senate, and these two ladies are elected to become the governor and lieutenant governor, let's talk about the sort of dynamic change that could happen. What do you see happening?
I think, if you don't mind, we will start to see our government come into compliance with a whole lot of laws we already have in the books. And I seriously have hope it gives me hope knowing that Tina and Leila have a very, very probable chance of getting in. And I've talked to Tina about this previously. But yes, it gives me hope for the CNMI.
Yeah.
If we elect Tina and Leila.
You're going to miss them though, right?
Not quite. I think I'll be at their their back door. Hey, you need to do this. I want you to comply with this.
You're not going to answer my call. I'm right here.
No, we have a very...
Introduce some legislation.
Sure.
Yes.
We have a very good working relationship, but they also know where I stand with respect to corruption, and I am confident in their abilities to work closely and collaboratively with the new legislature, whoever comes in. Yeah.
You know, I have to say, Troy, when I was listening back to that interview that we did 3 years ago now, I got goosebumps because I realized, like, at that time, I had no idea what the future looked like. We hadn't even begun our minority inquiry into Governor Torres's public expenditures.
It began with an introduction of the paperwork, I think a month and a half later.
Well, we started doing, the Open Government Act request, all the records that Kandit published, that of all these different expenditures, the Cheetos, you name it.
That was my favorite, by far.
But those were just starting to circulate, And it was really hard for me to see into the future. And Selena was like sitting right across from us as we're listening to this, and I realized, she that whole impeachment, she took it to the end, right?
Yeah,
and
nothing stopped her.
Right.
She was going to get it out there.
Yeah, and it was really under her leadership with the JGO investigation that everything was just put out there for people to see and come to their own conclusions, right, about all the wrongs that had been committed under this administration. And it was the first real attempt on the House's part to hold this governor's feet to the fire, right, and demand accountability for it.
And you did it. The savvy that you displayed, the strategic thinking, Selena, that you had. I mean, man, you really led that thing in ways that I'm sure Governor Torres and his people just never saw it coming.
She was 2 steps ahead.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Nola, we love you, Nola.
I think, to your comments, Troy, I think I honestly believe that the people elected me for that reason. They knew what my character was like prior to getting into office. They knew I could get the job done, and they knew I would get the job done. And I'm so grateful to the people of Precinct 1 really for believing in me. And I think also the reason why there was just no holding back, because that's what the people expected. That's what I was hearing from them when I was campaigning in 2020. We had heard rumors and all kinds of things happening in the government. And we knew, I knew what the people wanted. They told me what they wanted. And that was the will of the people.
Well, I'm sure the people of the Commonwealth are that much more appreciative and grateful because of what you did.
And I can honestly say that people can expect the same tenacity I had, in my current term in the House of Representatives. And I will continue to do what I'm asked to do.
She's just
when
getting
it comes to having our government, be accountable to the people.
When we come back, thank you so much. When we come back from this, it's not going to be a short commercial break. When we come back from this commercial break, we're going to get to some interesting issues, including veterans, crime, drugs, poverty, and education.
Attention GovGuam employees and retirees. Open enrollment is extended to October 10th. There's still time to choose Take Care and keep money in your pocket. Lower copays at preferred in-network providers. A payroll deduction as low as $2.04 bi-weekly. To avoid enrollment and payroll processing delays, enroll as soon as possible. Learn more at takecareasia.com/GovGuam 2023 or call 671-647-3526. Take Care, our island, your health plan.
Tom Fisher was a Peace Corps volunteer and an educator in the jungles of Central Africa. He went from educating children in impoverished nations to serving our nation in the United States Navy. Tom's legal expertise took him from the military courtroom as a judge advocate general to the courts of Guam, where he has spent 3 decades representing our Manumco and our less fortunate. Tom Fisher knows the law. He'll be a great lawmaker. Let's vote Attorney Thomas Fisher for Senator.
I'm Tom Fisher, and I approve this message.
Terongan kami resong mar me reilumar ngang ursemiam lino meta olopai. Imusan tangar malulu ngani kami masal ngani kami babu fiti le itti Selena Roberto Babauta bobotolong boye nice Congress nomor nyan balad nge ruo automatically nomor nyan balad nge ruo melan November 8 lan maram musik kemetingan au sihi uri ululu nyan ngang melan House of Representative eseb mesah ehibura ehiwana charmalian wikita ngairala mikagat dengan igis meas government ebal senir be eno precinct 2 ebal monar alnger sakna we esabior the ferno melan fanu kafanwas wan te hi lokametaka ekera boba mala the ferno melan nas government Oyas hero balan fanu kafanwas bali ye hero atto tabwe ya musene me ba to tabwe busiu atto lenge Selena Roberto Babauta nomor 2 lanyan balat bisi bu atto lenge webono boye as senator lan election sikkem tengene lan November Hilisso ngani kami resa omar merelumar hilisso.
Welcome back. Welcome back. So we were talking about access to healthcare, and that was one of the main topics that Stanley Iacopo brought up about his tenure as the Veterans Affairs, Military Affairs Administrator. I can't remember the exact title that he had, but he resigned just a couple of weeks ago. His wife just issued her resignation letter a couple of days ago, saying that she's resigning because she cannot in good conscience be a part of an administration that had done what Governor Ralph Torres did to her husband. So it got me curious. Last night I talked to them for 50 minutes on the phone, and most of it was about access to care for veterans. And he explained, he said, there was a time not too long ago when veterans in Rhoda and Tinian couldn't afford to fly over to Saipan to go to their doctor's appointments. The veterans throughout the Commonwealth didn't have money just simply for medications. Are you aware of these challenges that veterans have been going through over the years? Apparently it's gotten a lot better, but challenges still persist. Are you aware of these challenges, and what are you going to help with these issues, especially in terms of medical care for veterans?
Yeah. Yes, we are aware of the challenges that vets in the Marianas face and their families as well in VA care. There have been significant improvements. When I worked for Congressman Kilili, he was on the Veterans Affairs Committee and was constantly advocating for better access to VA care, more services in the islands. And what happened recently, for example, that didn't happen before, that vets and their families had no access to, was the caregiver support program under the VA. And thanks to his efforts, thanks to a lot of advocacy, now families can access that program. So and you know there have been more providers that have I guess made their services available specifically to vets, but there's a lot more that we can do, certainly. I think one of the big goals for us is, and for our delegate, is to see a community-based outpatient clinic established in the CNMI. Guam has one. We don't have one. We have an outreach clinic and a part-time provider with Dr. Norma Ada, and you know, and there are some nurses too, and there's like a licensed social worker, clinical social worker, and so like more providers are available now than there used to be a few years ago, but you know, I think we still have a long way to go. And with the CNMI Veterans Affairs Office, we envision that office becoming a much more robust resource center for vets and their families, and to be able to connect them to the services that are available, whether they're federal or local or nonprofit. You know, there's an effort now to stand up the CNMI's very first vet center. That's also supposed to be like an access point to connect vets to all kinds of services in the community. You know, whether it's mental health care or medical care for that matter, or other social services, employment, for example. You know, so that's one is to make this a resource center, make sure that staff are trained and can make the referrals, give guidance, register vets. I think there's a lot more data collection that we could be doing that could help us make our case before the Veterans Affairs Department, the Federal Department of Veterans Affairs, to bring more services to the Marianas. You know, and we have to be able to show those numbers too.
There's a link. I mean, it's just an obvious thing. We don't have to have any scientific studies to show us that there's a true link between poverty and crime, and we see both of those going up, not just in the CNMI, but also in Guam. What's your plan?
Oh, well, I would say one way to address poverty is giving people more access to education opportunities, whether it's through college or trades. In particular, building up our workforce is something that we both really know is important to combating poverty. Right now, with our CW transitions that we're having, we know that we need to find a way to link the people who are also that are not working in our communities to help add more workforce to, you know, the pot, which will then help address some of the poverty issues that we see. But we have to make those pathways a little bit more connected. One of those things is by providing apprenticeships, because by providing access to that kind of support and training, then people will have more pathways to long-term employment, which will help combat the poverty question. And that's a big picture. There's a lot of small. That's a long-term goal. A lot of smaller things that we could also look at. Okay. But at least for the long term, that's one of the things that we definitely look at, and how we can provide our people with access to get out of poverty. Because breaking the poverty cycle is really important. Education is one of the first steps.
Yeah. So that's more of that's the long-term strategy, right? And you don't really see governments. A lot of politicians talk about it. Yeah, education. But when it comes down to the brass tacks, the commitment actually isn't there, and you see that in governments throughout the states and the territories. And so thank you for that commitment to that long-term strategy and that commitment of resources. I'm going to guess a commitment of resources.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we have to be able to follow through, right? And the resources have to be there for that. But for sure, the leadership, the political will, right, to truly prioritize education. I mean, Leila has been a lifelong educator. I mean, she's dedicated her whole career to education, and is right now working on apprenticeship legislation, and working with our partner organizations, right? PSS, the public school system, NM Tech, and the Northern Marianas College, as well as, you know, other organizations like the Contractors Association, the Department of Labor. Like, we talk all the time about our plans to realign these agencies and these resources to create these pathways for people to access opportunities, right, and to pull themselves out of poverty. And I wouldn't, you know, add to that network, that realignment, our small business development resources, right? There's a number of agencies that offer resources, offer access to financing and financial education, for that matter, and small business development assistance, and getting them to all talk to each other and coordinate their resources and their programs and be accessible to people that are looking for these opportunities, I think is really, you know, the responsibility of the leadership to do that.
And I would even go so far as looking at how the current social services that are available might be more, I guess, making sure that the people who need those services know how to get them and where to get them, because that's part of a lot of what our job is as congresswomen right now, our legislators, is our community members reaching out to us because they're either getting evicted or, you know, they don't have food, asking us for help. And often what we do is we connect them to those services. But as, you know, legislators, there's got to be more than just us that are doing that. And I know that our social services programs are working hard, but if there are people that are still reaching out to us, that means we still have a lot of work to do, because those are the people who are most in need. They're the most, you know, significantly just challenged people that need help, and we want to make sure that the services we provide are adequate and actually meet their needs.
So as a short-term solution to the issue of poverty, one of the things that you're committing to is sort of like a community liaison program where you connect people. Am I getting that right?
Yes. It's like wraparound, but like on a big level, you know? I mean, that's really what I think realigning of the services and community, you know, all these different things that would do, is really providing a huge wraparound for, you know, the whole community.
Yeah.
Well,
I like
work
the idea
for
of
you
that.
because we do that here at Kandit. Okay? People
imagine.
call us,
Yeah.
and I'm like, okay, you just go here and here and here, and they didn't know.
Right.
You know?
So
life-saving.
what's actually in our platform is to set up like a
Johnny does it. I don't.
But yeah, setting up some kind of hotline, some kind of service, right, under the office of the governor, right, where people would actually answer the phone and also be able to refer people to the range of resources that they might need help just getting information about, right, and connecting them that way. That can be so life-changing, and starting with picking up the phone and being able to answer somebody's question, or at least point them in the direction where they can get answers, right. But I think going back to your question, like, what do we do about poverty? I think that takes a really comprehensive approach, and you're right, like a lot of what we've talked about is more like long-term, but like laying the foundation for this, you know, comprehensive, multi-pronged approach, because I mean, we haven't even talked about housing, right? And also access to healthcare, I think, is a big part of alleviating poverty, because so many people fall into debt, like they just fall into financial ruin because they get sick, or somebody in their among their loved ones gets sick,
and they need to become caregivers,
and
all
they
of a sudden,
become
give up their
caregivers,
jobs.
and they can't work, or they have to, they're saddled with medical debt, right? And like that, our poverty plans have to be able to address that too, and healthcare is a big part of that.
What about short-term solutions for crime and for the drug problem, which I was disappointed that none of the questions during the last debate asked. So do you have any thoughts on what to do in the short term about this problem?
Yeah, well, I do think a lot of our crime and drug problems do stem from poverty. Right? And, you know, the approach to crime and drugs also has to come from that more comprehensive and holistic perspective, right? So access to rehabilitation services, I think, is important. We have long been supporters of the drug court and also the mental health court that the judiciary is developing now. You know, I'd like to see these programs grow, and
so more resources for like the drug court
for people being able to access that,
and rehabilitative services. Okay,
yeah,
especially rehabilitative services. You know, having more access to educational opportunities in if they do get incarcerated as one option. I mean, in particular, I know NM Tech right now is collaborating with corrections to get inmates to have a pathway to something when they leave, so they're getting training and they're getting, you know, opportunities for a different pathway when they're done. And we actually did that, or NM Tech has been doing that because of what they've seen happen in Guam with their programs. So
yeah, I mean, I must say, I am so glad that NM Tech has begun to make inroads into corrections, because for the longest time, for years, especially during the pandemic, I think it's probably the worst it's ever been. There really were no services at all. Like, not even somebody coming in to read the Bible with these inmates, right? And I was getting calls, like, personally from inmates saying, like, we need help. Like, there is just nothing here, right? And, you know, the community isn't safer when there's no rehabilitation services at all for people to be able to make their re-entry back into society, right? And then, you know, these problems of recidivism, that's a huge problem in the CNMI. Like, and they're, you know, like repeat criminals are, you know, they probably account, I don't have the exact numbers on me right now, but I know that they account for a significant part of our crime statistics, right? It's people that are just in the system and keep going back, and how do we get them out of the system and reintegrate them with society and help them to become productive citizens? Like, these services have to be available.
Do you have any more issues to raise?
No.
Okay, I have a final question.
Okay.
What is your, for each of you, what is your favorite Nettie C recipe?
Oh, gosh,
I have mine.
do.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I have mine. Can I answer that?
Yes, okay.
Mine is the shrimp with the crab paste recipe.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
That's the one where you hear the shrimp like going around in the
yes,
pot, right?
I ate 2 boxes.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. There was 5 pieces left, and I put it in the fridge, and I told my kids, do not touch it. Yeah.
Gosh, I do love Nettie C. I admit, though, I haven't really tried any of her recipes yet.
Try it.
I just love watching her.
Try it. So Nettie C, if you are watching, please deliver some food.
Nettie C, I got to try your tempura that night or that day that you made it for the run that they did, you know, with Josh and all those guys. So I went to my aunt's house because she runs Docomo, and she had some there. So I got to eat it. So I'm going to say that was my favorite because it was made by her hands.
Was it so good?
It was so good, and it was still crispy. It was still crispy.
Magic hands. Yeah. You know, when we had an opportunity to interview here on Guam over at Linda's.
Yeah.
And she was just talking about, you know, she has an amazing story, by the way.
Yeah.
She really, and she's just such a humble,
she's not
nice
political at
person.
all. She doesn't, you know.
She goes, please don't ask me about politics. I go, no, we're not going to ask you about anything politics. She goes, okay, good.
I cut my shirt like yours too, you know.
Yeah, you totally did.
Yeah.
I love her.
Yeah.
I'm starstruck by her, as a matter of fact.
Oh yeah, we all love her.
I needed to find a way to stay his best friend. So I contacted her.
You will always be my best friend. Forever and ever. And I know you'll kill me if not. Yeah.
And whoever thinks they're gonna.
Yeah, exactly. So let's go back to the 3 years ago, that interview that we had.
Yeah.
At the time, you had no idea who Kandit News was, right?
Oh yeah, I had some idea because I'd seen the expenditures that you'd publish from the governor's office, right? Like, I'd seen some of that.
No, I think that might have happened after. I don't think we started publishing the expenditures
this was
until
our investigating phase.
Yes, it was our
in November. I think you guys started like the month before that, in October.
Gosh, I don't remember.
It was after the raids.
We'll verify.
But I never talked to you before that, and yeah. And
Okay.
and you weren't even calling for me. You were calling for Ed Probst.
Yeah.
As I recall.
Well, you know what? Then if that's true, that we did expenditure stuff prior, you're not the first person I met from the CNMI through Kandit.
Oh.
Someone else is, and I cannot say who that is.
Oh boy. Can you say it off camera?
No. We protect our sources. We protect our sources.
Yeah.
But so, how has your journey been over the past 3 years with Kandit?
Oh my goodness. Well, I remember thanking you at the time for shining a light on all of these questionable activities, right? That people were just starting to read and digest, and they were asking questions about it, and there was a lot of I think turmoil was the word that I used, and it was so true. And Kandit was really providing a service, right, and shining a light on these things that weren't even being covered
Over there.
even by our own local media, right? Like it was just being exchanged, like those documents, copies of those documents were being exchanged on social media, and it was really Kandit that just kind of blew it wide open and made people look, right? Made people pay attention and ask questions, and I thought that was such a hugely important service. And Kandit has only continued to do that, right? Like your coverage of the JGO investigation hearings, your coverage
Those
of
were so fun.
but I know people were watching. Like there were more people watching on Kandit than even on the legislature's YouTube station, right?
I think that's still true.
Yes.
You know, and I think like half of, and maybe a big part of why they watch is also for the commentary, right? Like to be able to hear what you have to say about it and to exchange comments with everybody else that's watching. Like I think that's such an important part of this whole process. Is
The eyeballs.
the eyeballs, but the discourse too,
Yeah.
right? And
I think you're saying the things that people want to say, or they're thinking, and that's often why people gravitate towards I guess this kind of media too, because they want to say, or they want to hear what they also are thinking. You're echoing the sentiment of the people.
Well, I want to thank you on behalf of all of us here at Kandit, because I want to thank you for making the changes and fighting the good fight, because here on Guam, we can scream at the top of our lungs about what is corrupt, what is wrong, what is unethical, and we don't have too many leaders here like you guys who are willing to make the changes, who have the political will. And so, I'll be completely honest with everyone. I love the CNMI more than I love Guam, my own home.
Oh.
And it's because we feel like we can make a difference. We can help here at Kandit to shine that light, even if we're not from the CNMI. And the people of the CNMI make us feel welcome. Like, we feel
they
welcome.
thank us.
there's a lot of gratitude and you have a lot of fans.
We are grateful.
In the CNMI.
We are grateful to the two of you, to your colleagues, and to all of your supporters, and to the people of the CNMI for welcoming us into their homes. When I went there, remember when I went to, and I fell asleep inside the house chamber.
I remember that very well.
And I thought I was going to get shot. Remember that crazy guy who messaged me and was like, "You're going to be assassinated when you come off the plane." And then,
I remember that.
and I had no idea he was crazy. And then you guys let me know that he was. He was kinda
we
crazy.
brought you down.
Yeah.
And we're like, no, he's fine. You're fine.
When we were getting on the plane, but when we got there, everyone was so nice. From the time we got to Herman's Bakery, oh my gosh, everyone there was so nice. Everywhere we went, and then when Johnny went, with Zach, everyone was so nice. Zach, by the way, is from Olei.
Oh,
yeah.
His family is
Hi,
there.
Zach.
So
Yeah, it
thank
was
you.
great when I went there too. Like I told myself, okay, just stay under the radar. You're here for one purpose, and that's to follow
And
the
then
court.
Selena wouldn't let her
and
stay
then
under the
when
radar.
I got to the airport, I see Arnold and Lee Pon, and I'm just like, hi, hello. And then when I get down from the airport, I'm like, lay low, like everybody's there. I'm like, oh, hello, everybody.
But you know where I think that really comes from is just like the sense of relief that people have, right? Because corruption really just festers and thrives in darkness, right? When in secrecy, and when a light is shown upon it, and when people start to ask questions, and when accountability starts and justice, starts becoming like a real possibility, that's when they feel hope, and that's when there's like this lightness and this relief, right? And I think people are still hopeful for that, but it's like there could be no justice if there was no transparency, if there was no exposure, and if there weren't if there wasn't a vigilant press calling politicians to task. Right?
Well, there could be justice at the when we vote, when the CNMI
yes.
votes.
Yes.
So if justice doesn't come in the form of the courts, justice can come in the
From the
form
people.
from the people, and that's at their vote at the ballots.
Yes.
Right.
So with
On the
that
ballots.
said, I believe this is their camera right here, right? With that said, ladies, will you look into your camera and speak directly to the voters of the Commonwealth, both in the Commonwealth and abroad?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody who's been listening and viewing. We want you to know that change is on the ballot with Leila and me. We're number one. And, you know, the change that we're running for is the good governance that you deserve. And November 8th is the day, and make your voices known. Your vote is your voice. And we look forward to seeing you out on the campaign trail when we get back home.
Biba.
Yes.
Did you ask them to vote for you? You have to ask them to vote
Please vote for Tina and I this November 8th. We will serve you well as we have served you all these other years in public service. Thank you.
And ladies and gentlemen from Guam who are supporters of Tina and Leila and change in the Commonwealth, don't forget, we'll see you tonight at Good Times.
Yes.
At 6 p.m. is it?
6 o'clock.
At 6 p.m.
Yep.
See you tonight for Kandit News. I'm Troy Torres.
And I'm Johnny Rosario.
Have a great day.
Attention GovGuam employees and retirees. Open enrollment is extended to October 10th. There's still time to choose Take Care and keep money in your pocket. Lower copays at preferred in-network providers. A payroll deduction as low as $2.04 bi-weekly. To avoid enrollment and payroll processing delays, enroll as soon as possible. Learn more at takecareasia.com/GovGuam 2023 or call 671-647-3526. Take Care, our island, your health plan.